This video is sponsored by Noregon, the commercial vehicle data experts. Visit Noregon.com to learn more.
Depending on where you live, this may not feel true just yet, but spring is just around the corner. In fact, let me lose this coat and hat. I'll need these. There we go. As with every seasonal change, the upcoming change in seasons means a change in your fleet maintenance practices to match what's going on in those trucks' routes. So what kind of maintenance should be prioritized in spring, and how does it differ from winter maintenance? For those answers and more, I sat down with Jason Hedman of Noregon in today's episode. Here's what he had to say. All right, so today on the Road, we are here with Jason Hedman. He's the product manager for JPro with Noregon. Jason, thanks so much for joining the show today.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and we got you live from your RV, so it's one of the more
Live
exciting
from my RV.
one of the more exciting backdrops we've had, or at least more interesting.
Well, building a home, you got to do what you got to do. So living in an RV for a few months, it's been an adventure.
Oh, I bet. All right, so today we're talking about common truck maintenance issues as we head from winter into spring, and the kinds of things that you work on with your trucks start to change a little bit. So as we kind of make that seasonal transition, what kind of things should fleets be keeping an eye on as we head into spring?
I mean, there's seasonal stuff, but all good maintenance programs should have the same basic stuff set in place for no matter what the season is. You got to do basic maintenance, right? So one of the first things that I thought of when I was asked this or proposed this question is what would I do? What did I do at my shops when I was working in the field? And that the first thing is all good maintenance programs have a wash program. Some of them have, they have an actual wash bay and they got somebody that does the work for them. So washing and cleaning your vehicle, get that road salt off of the vehicle, make sure you clean your batteries. As a mechanic myself, I had to do that. I think it's really good that mechanics do the washing themselves because you actually put your hands on stuff and you see things that may get missed in the wash bay by someone who's just washing a truck. So, wash the road salt off. You're wanting to stop the corrosion that's happening on your wiring, which causes faults, which is, where I pick up with the diagnostic tool is I've got to have, good connection to the vehicle. The vehicle has to have good, healthy wiring. So you start there, and that basic maintenance is key.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting point too about, the benefits of having the technician actually wash the vehicle, because it is really, it's both doing that and it's an opportunity to really get a close look at it.
Oh yeah. Put your hands on it. You're going to notice stuff. And again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having a separate wash bay and someone doing that for you, as long as that's part of the PM process. You're cleaning it up first. You get that road salt off of it, getting it ready for the road in spring.
Yeah, definitely. And as we talk about seasonal maintenance, and this kind of applies to any season, I imagine the thing for fleets and when it comes to service programs is you want to have a program, you want to have a plan, that you're getting to things far enough in advance. So how far in advance should fleets start to look at this type of seasonal maintenance?
You're planning that years ahead. And I mean, your process is in place and you know what you're going to do every year after year. And this, pulling these trucks in, making sure they get the salt washed of them is something you planned before winter ever started, the year before. And same thing with your summer and your winter, your program. So it's always a season ahead, a full season or a year ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And we found that, when we write about these things on fleet equipment, you're talking about summer when it's still, snowing out, but that is when you need to start thinking about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's called preventative maintenance for a reason, right? And that's, even though like washing and cleaning the truck doesn't seem like it's preventative maintenance, it really is, because you're preventing corrosion from happening on the, on the truck itself, on the wiring, on the battery, terminals, etc.
And so you work with JPro, which is Noregon's diagnostic tool, and I wanted to talk about that kind of diagnostic software and how it can help fleets stay ahead of this kind of stuff.
As I've talked before in interviews, there's a lot of things that people take for granted. For seasonal stuff like this, I talked about, you know, one great example we have is a def heater problem that was seen in a truck that was in Florida, and then the truck broke down when it was moved up north because the def heater wasn't working, right? So the def froze up and it couldn't do its job. Um, and it was ignored in Florida. That fault was ignored. It's the same thing with seasonal maintenance. Um, this is spring maintenance, but just because it's spring maintenance doesn't mean you ignore the fault for that def heater in springtime. So you see it, you fix it, right? You're preventing a potential problem in the wintertime. So your seasonal maintenance is looking ahead. One of the other things that we see a lot of that may have gotten ignored is some AC system faults. You don't ignore that stuff. You know, your heater's working in the wintertime, but when you have AC system faults, you want to go ahead and address those when they're in the shop in the springtime, because you want your defrosters to work correctly, especially in the spring when the air starts getting moist. It's a safety issue at that point if your windows get fogged up. You know, heating up a truck can always defrost the windows to a certain amount in the wintertime. But in the springtime, when you're driving down roads and you're dropping down in valleys, you know, where the humidity rises all of a sudden, if your defrost system and your AC system aren't working correctly, you're proposing, you know, a pretty dangerous situation when the driver can't see out the windows. And that happens all of a sudden. It doesn't happen, you know, like when you're trying to defrost a window, which has been frozen for hours. So those are a couple things to look for as far as, you know, what kind of maintenance things you want to look at for trucks. So don't ignore the faults that are DEF related and DPF related that are seasonal, right? You need that DEF heater in the wintertime. Don't ignore them. And then look for faults that are around AC systems.
Yeah, and that's a good point about, you know, you don't want to ignore things just because it's not, you know, the right season for them, because at some point you will have to deal with it.
Oh yeah. You're always trying to be ahead of it, right? That's why you're looking at you're a year out, more than a year out in your planning.
Yeah. And that's really the key to all of this is, you know, the more in advance you plan these things, the less you have these kind of emergency situations pop up.
Exactly. Yeah, and don't take for granted. Again, you've said it. It's a good point, right? I always found stuff that I wouldn't have found when I was washing the trucks myself. So it's a good thing to do.
Right, yeah.
Keep them clean. I like to keep my own vehicles clean for different reasons. I like pretty vehicles. But you know, I just find stuff on my own vehicles when I'm washing them.